this importance of capacity building for early stage startups and especially in the social sector is something that often goes slightly under the radar. We've had 2 days of very engaging sessions as part of this Arthan conclave, wherein a lot of sessions have been focused about fundraising, different avenues for capital raising, blended finance, master classes on how to approach investors and raise capital, and which is of course an important part of every entrepreneur's journey. We as investors obviously take a lot of time off the social enterprises and engaging with them on that aspect. And of course, enterprises are focused on scaling their businesses and building, their market presence and reaching out to the consumers to offer their products and services. But I think the elements which go into making a long-term sustainable organization, which includes human capital, which includes best systems and practices, governance, and just focusing on always keeping an ear to the ground, listening to the consumer, being agile. Some of those things are not given enough attention in the regular discourse. And one of the things that we've been hearing, and the other panels that I was there this morning on as well, it was highlighted that these are things that have become exceedingly important in this time of crisis.
The tech piece has become far more pronounced. So therefore, in a lot of our capacity building programs, we ensure that we support them with understanding how technology can be used in the most rudimentary way. It doesn't have to be a very, very fancy technology stack, but something that's rudimentary, something that's simple, but can yet get to your consumer and get the service or the product that you want to your consumer where they are.
I think the headline question that everyone wanted an answer to was who is being hit hardest by the pandemic. In that, we wanted to understand, people's poverty status, changes in things like their food consumption, impact on their overall financial situation, and actual evidence of concrete behavior changes that indicate how hard they've been hit or how badly they've been hit. For example, how their spendings or savings patterns have changed, and also are people having to sell assets in terms of just being able to get through. So what we developed, and I might bore you guys for a couple of minutes, with the technical terms, is something called a vulnerability index. And that allowed us to compare how customers in one country are doing as opposed to customers in other countries. As we know, government responses have been different. And so, for example, despite Tanzania having the highest poverty rates in our databases, the surveys that were coming in, or the responses that were coming in, were indicating that Tanzanians actually were faring much better than their regional counterparts. And we think our hypothesis was that because in the weeks preceding our interviews there were limited government restrictions in place. So people's ability to go on about their normal daily activities, their ability to earn income wasn't restricted. And so similarly in other regions in sub-Saharan Africa, we noticed that the stricter the lockdown, the more badly people were being affected. And so obviously, we're keen to see how the respondents' vulnerability changes as governments around the world are lifting restrictions, and that's something that we also notice in India. The first round of surveys that we did, people's vulnerability was as high as 47%, and our most recent round with off-grid energy customers in India, the vulnerability has gone down to 7% because a lot of people have started opening their businesses again.
One of the key resources that is available for everyone, and it's an open source platform. It is on our sankalpforum.com website also, but it's the COVIDcap database. This was pulled together by Duke University, and it's a really fantastic resource because it has two things. It has non-financial resources, so it has global non-financial resources that people can access. And I think this is one of the wonderful things about this new normal of access to technology and access to knowledge around the world, right? I mean, nobody is limited to capacity building that is within their own sort of physical space. You can actually access webinars and masterclasses that are being put out globally. So, very often, we would be doing something and we would have people logging in from, the US or from Nigeria, or from Ghana, or, different parts from across the world. And so the COVID Cap website is fantastic. It is updated fairly regularly, and it's updated with two things. It's updated with a database of financial resources that are available. And this is both grant funding and investment funding that is specific to COVID. And it's it's both for civil society and for social enterprises. So I would really encourage everybody to sort of check that out. You can also add your own resources to it. So this is a really good thing for all of us to do a little bit more actively. Because as much as sort of people were very active of sharing resources in the beginning, in the start, I think that sort of slowed down a little bit. But there is a far more urgent need to do that now as we sort of move into this space of recovery.
If you do not have a co-founder or a founder on the team that already has a strong tech background, then I do not think that it's wise to really invest heavily in recruiting someone that has a tech background and actually building things out. I'm a strong proponent in the beginning of riding on the backbone of something that exists. It could be an open source platform, and even outsourcing your tech build up to someone that, the tech product that you want to build out to someone that exists. It's also about realizing what your core competency is. If your core competency is not technology, you're not a tech company, it's hard to build that DNA, right? So it might take some time, and if really your core competencies is, healthcare or education or agriculture or environmental, whatever it might be, right? I mean, you just can't start, building out a technology platform internally, and it just, those mistakes are so costly because you build out a product and you realize it's not what you want, and then you're constant iteration. So I just feel that, you should just focus on the core competencies that you have.
Customer level knowledge is equally important and relevant during the crisis. And some of the questions that we've been asking in our surveys can directly inform what action companies can take to support their customers at this time. And to share a snippet with you, one of the energy service providers that we worked with very recently in India, based on the results of the survey, is actually reaching out to the worst affected customers. And they were able to gather that information based on how, as we segmented the data in terms of the regions they were serving, they realized that there are certain regions and certain kind of customers that were actually hit more, not something that they had envisioned or thought or hypothesized. And so in terms of offering payment deferrals, which is one of the biggest thing customers were asking for as their unmet need during the crisis, they are focusing their limited resources and offering financial support packages based on the results of the survey. So like I mentioned, something very actionable, and we did the survey in a couple of weeks. And so, without plugging our work here, I'm just saying that remote survey data collection can still have, is still very important, and can still yield dividends far greater than what social enterprises envisioned before they undertake this journey.